Green.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's regularly scheduled board meeting on August 16th, 2023 at just about 5:31 p.m. Thank you all for joining us this evening and being here with us. Before we begin, I'd like to share with our audience that if you need Spanish translation services, please see Lupita.
Hola, buenas noches y bienvenidos a la reunión de la mesa directiva hoy 16 de agosto de 2023. Si necesita servicios de interpretación, por favor, acuda a mí o a mi compañera Roxanne, que estamos aquí disponibles.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to call the meeting to order and establish a quorum.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar.
Yes.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini. Excuse me.
Great, thank you. Agenda item B, I'd like to notify our audience this evening that the open session this evening will be streamed, broadcasted, and recorded on the district's YouTube channel. May I please receive a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar.
I'm not used to being second.
Yes. Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes. Yes.
I'd like to extend a warm welcome this evening to our new student board member, Marcus Mickey. Welcome. We're happy to have you. And with that, would you please go ahead and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Agenda item E. This will be our student representative, ACT, CSCA comments, Board of Education, and acting superintendent updates regarding routine status updates, campus activities, meeting schedules, conferences, any meetings attended, and any recent developments. So we will go ahead and start with you, Marcus.
Well, thank you so much for welcoming me here. Yes, students are just about getting back into the habit of which classes they have, when and where. By now, teachers have gone over syllabi and everyone is ready for the school year. Incoming sixth graders at Carmel Middle School and freshmen at Carmel High School have received their welcoming orientations from their student leadership, as well as from the link crew at the high school, and they are continuing to help these students settle in. Outside of school, students have found various ways of getting back together with their peers. The sophomore class reunited and bonded at Hacienda, who I would like to thank for their hospitality and for making this event an outstanding experience for students. The senior class has continued the not school sponsored tradition of meeting at Carmel Beach early in the morning for senior sunrise, although we couldn't actually see the sunrise. At the high school's annual back to school rally, we honored teachers and staff who have dedicated decades to serving Carmel students, as well as welcomed our new principal, Ms. Duthman, and assistant principals, Mrs. Gast and Mr. Pakaleb. That same week, students went to Camp Carmel, where they had the chance to participate in an array of activities across campus. This Friday, the Associated Student Body will also be hosting the club fair, with snacks and drinks provided by Padre parents. At Captain Cooper, back to school night will be on August 10th. At Tularcitos and River School, it will be on August 17th. At Carmel Middle School on August 22nd. At Carmelo on August 23rd. And at Carmel High School on August 24th. Later this August, students at the middle school will be participating in their Spirit Week, first one of the year. Students at Tularcitos will be having an after-school pool party at the Carmel Valley Community Youth Center pool. Students at Captain Cooper will be visiting the environmental education site here at Carmel Middle School at Me-Earth. And students at Carmelo will be having a DJ dance party. Fall sports are underway at the high school. Every team has started practicing. Some sports like water polo have even been practicing since as early as July. At the middle school, tryouts and practice are scheduled for later this month. The high school is preparing for Powder Puff, which is the annual junior versus seniors girls flag football game. Coaches have begun scouting, rosters are being built, and practices are scheduled to begin next Monday. I've also heard from the high school dance class that the all-boys cheerleading team may be Barbie-themed, so mark your calendar to not miss that. The Carmel High School drama class will also be having their first production of the year, which will be Twelfth Night by William Shakespeare. Overall, this year is a clean slate for everyone, and I think students are really excited to just get going with the new year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marcus. We'll move along to association representative updates. We'll start with Elizabeth Marsh from the Association of Carmel Teachers.
Hi, everyone. So good evening. Thank you to all the parents, staff, and students for a great first week of school. And I just have a quick little site visit to share with you. I got to visit Captain Cooper Elementary School this week. The staff was incredibly welcoming, and they were really grateful that I made the drive to see them. And I'll remind you what a beautiful drive it is, so that wasn't that much of a hardship. And Cooper is a beautiful campus filled with dedicated professionals. They impressed me with their commitment, teamwork, and resourcefulness, and hearing about the lengths that they go to in order to support their students and each other is inspiring. Thank you so much for all your hard work, board members, and have a good evening.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to, hi Lisa, Lisa Brazil from the California School Employees Association, CSCA.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to school. I want to just begin with a quick welcome to all of the students who are back in classrooms, all of the board members who are back working on school business after a summer break, all the teachers and classified staff. If you look around the library, the decorations that are up are due to classified staff, so shout out to the classified staff who work in here, Gianna and Lisa. Welcome, Marcus. Glad to have you on the school board this year. The only real update I have is a year ago, CSEA Chapter 190 began a reclass process, and we just concluded the first year of that process. It's a 1.5 year long process in which the district asked us to go through every single job description in our classified unit and update them to bring them up to speed. For example, my original job description asked me to take shorthand, and I don't know how to do that. And Barry does, I don't. So they were, some of them were well over 20, pushing 30 years old. It's been a long time since this has been done. It's been an enormous project. It's involved countless hours of the human resource staff, and I want to thank Craig and his team for all the work they've put into it. We are in a space now where about half of the classified staff have received their new job descriptions for review, and tomorrow it is our hope that they will go to CSEA in San Jose for what's called a 610 process for a legal review, and then they will come back to the board for ratification. So it's been a really long process. It's a process that we're all very grateful for because those job descriptions were in, very overdue, as any classified staff in the audience know. So that's been a big project. We have a few other projects that we're looking at this year that I'll be talking about later, but thank you all for your support. We greatly appreciate it. We know we have our board support, and that makes all of us feel much better about what we do, and being able to work with students is the icing on the cake. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Lisa. We'll go ahead and do updates from the Board of Education, and we'll start with you, Carl.
Yeah, I too want to welcome Marcus. You're still president of the Public Policy Club, am I right?
Yes.
That is a pretty cool club. I had an opportunity to have joined them for an event last year, so I could see the budding politician that we have on our hands here today, moving forward. So that's kind of cool. Not a whole lot, but for me, Kashawa's end of summer program was really pretty cool. Went out there, and some of my fellow board members will probably weigh in on that a little bit. Other than the heat out there, it was a lot of fun, you know, for the kids and the adults, big barbecue, on and on. That was pretty cool. You know, another one for me was the Fiesta in Carmel Valley because, you know, I'm a docent at the Carmel Valley History Association out there, and I got a chance to go out Sunday and take a look at the Fiesta. The most moving thing to me was all of the former students that were there that, you know, were doing the Mr. Powell thing, and it was really cool. Not to mention all of the tents and all of the stuff that, you know, was going on. It's really quite an event, big deal out there. So other than that, River School, first day, I've got a granddaughter, and she is in first grade. And a grandson is in the third, so I was able to attend River's opening day, and that was always fun. I've also got one at middle school now, sixth grade, Jackson. These are all Pat's kids, you know, so. Anyway, you know, other thing too is there's a lot of stuff happening on the educational scene. I'm not going to do it today, but things like the effect of artificial intelligence on the job market and what kind of a program are we presenting kids and what kind of jobs are going to really be there and how coordinated is our curriculum with that future event. Another one is junior colleges, by Assembly Bill 927 that passed in 2001, are allowed to offer bachelor degrees, Bachelor of Art degrees. They have to be approved by CSU and UC System Schools, but Feather River Canyon has one in environmental restoration. And it's fascinating to think that junior colleges now are moving into specialty areas where they can offer these degrees. That particular one was a result of the Dixie Fire they had up there in 2021. And you know, that's in Quincy, so it's up in Northern California, but the prospects there are really interesting. So anyway, with that, I'm going to move on. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Jason?
Hi, good evening. I spent the summer trying to visit as many people as I could and learn as much as I could. About once a week, I spend an hour with Sharon Ofek, and she educates me on how education works and kind of corrects my thinking to see how this all ties into laws and what we're working towards. Something that I saw that was great when I went to the Kashawa end-of-year barbecue was Lee Cambra was already working on what she's going to do next year to expand that program and build it and kind of like a deconstruction of what worked and what didn't. And I like seeing forward-thinking people in this district, and I see that a lot with Sharon. I see that with Lee. I see that with everybody that we're working with. When I went back to the back-to-school meeting for the ACT and CSEA, the breakfast that they did, I think it was a couple days before school, and they had breakfast burritos. And Lisa, Sharon, and Elizabeth all spoke. Everybody's looking forward to the future, and it just hit me hard when Marcus said, clean slate, moving forward. These are big words and easily achievable goals, and we have so much to offer this community. Let's all work together as a team, you know, administrators with the board, with teachers, with staff, and right the ship and correct our problems and figure it all out like everybody else is trying to do. Beyond that, I've got nothing else to share. Besides, I am looking forward to new learning experiences with the CSBA website. They opened up a bunch of learning for me. It took a little while, and Michelle spent a ton of time trying to get it open, but tons of free classes for board education, which I think all of us will take advantage of, and I love that kind of stuff. So that's what I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Anne Marie?
Hello, everyone. Community Human Services meetings were went on during this summer, and they're working on planning on having an open house for all their facilities on Friday, and so we're going to be able to go through and see all their different sites that they have available for homeless, women, children, domestic violence, drug and alcohol rehabilitation program, so we get to go through and see all of that. So they had a huge meeting at the Embassy Suites, and Jason went along with me, and I ran around and introduced him to as many of the notables as I knew, and he found a couple of notables of his own. The Big Sur, I went down to their camp, and they were working on gardening and clay work, and It was amazing to see the beginnings of that camp going on down there. The one in Kashawa has been going on for a good 10 years, and the district has finally gotten into it the last couple of years, so that's really good to see that it's now beginning to take off down in Big Sur. Kashawa, the camp was so much fun. It's something that the kids have been wanting to do for quite some time, and they wanted to have this big carnival, so all the kids were in charge of all the different booths. Instead of having the adults be in charge of them, they were in charge of them, and so it was homespun. How about that? It was very nice to see. Welcome back breakfast, and I got to welcome Libby into her new digs at the high school, and that was lots of fun to just say congratulations to her, the third female principal that I know of at the high school, and just tell her, you've got big shoes to fill, and I think that you're going to do a great job. I had a portrait of a graduate meeting with Seabury and Sharon, and thank you very much for taking the time out of your trip to have a Zoom session for that one. And then on Monday I went to Kashawa Center, and it was so nice to go back up there, and I was greeted at the door going, "Oh my God, you're here again. I've got trouble with math." And I'm like, "Oh yes, I'm here. So it made me feel really very, very special. And I was at the Fiesta Run, and I saw members of the cross-country team, and they are looking really good. Some of them participated in the 2.2-mile run, and then others went on to the 7.7-mile run. So it was really interesting. I have an agenda request that some people have put up to me, so I'm just going to put that one out to you. For possible study session topics, they want to have the board sort of banter about which ones they would like to go on to. One on governance, one on Title IX and CANRA, Brown Act, and they wanted to take a look at strategic plan and portrait of a graduate to see how it's going to change going forward, and then career tech ed, which I know that we have something planned, but this was coming from some of my constituents. So I'm just putting that one out there because they wanted to hear how the board banters around about those topics. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Seabury?
Hi, everyone. I was able to go to River School on Monday and participate in, welcoming students and saying hi to teachers and meeting Alberto, who's the new principal there. He's just fantastic, and the vibe at the campus at River School is incredible. It's, I think our theme here tonight is fresh start, and it certainly seems like that there's a fresh start there. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see the excitement on campus. I also went on Tuesday to the high school and got to sit down with Libby, the new principal there, and that was a wonderful opportunity to hear some of her thoughts of moving forward and some of the ideas that she has to move the high school forward. So I appreciated both of them for taking the time to sit with me. And then lastly, again, this wasn't planned at all, but it seems like Marcus and Jason and I kind of had the same theme. I wanted to read a statement just because I just felt very compelled to do it tonight. And I would love to be off the cuff and just speak from my heart, but I am speaking from my heart. It's just written so I don't forget some of the main points that I wanted to get across. So my process for knowing exactly when to speak is not perfect at all. I need to speak my mind and let you know that what it's like to be in my seat. I try to be thoughtful when I make a statement and have learned to trust my gut instinct. But I also want to recognize how hard it is to be in your seat. And I know from the outside looking in, you guys have questions and you're concerned about how we're moving forward. These past few years have been really rough, and this week in particular has been very hard for me. I know that there are unanswered questions, and many of you are disappointed and angry. Sitting in the seat makes it hard to explain myself and the decisions we make, and I acknowledge that there is more healing to be done and trust to be earned. But throughout all of this chaos and uncertainty, the district is full of goodness. The teachers and the staff of this district are the constant that keep our kids thriving, happy, and learning. They haven't stopped ever, showing up and being there for the students, putting in the time and effort, and working even harder to make sure students are getting everything they need. Students will come and go, but the teachers and staff remain. As a parent, a community member, and a board member, I am incredibly grateful. I ran for this position 2.5 years ago to make a difference, but honestly, I found myself only reacting to some of the chaos. This has been a very hard journey for me, and it's hard to be in the seat and hear some of the discourse and anger. But I will continue to show up, and I invite you to show up as well and participate in the discussions and have faith that this board is committed to make things right. Today, I look towards the future, and I ask my community that you do the same. We have a community that is strong and passionate and committed. We have all the right pieces of the puzzle. We can take this opportunity to lead with hope for what is to come, not what has happened. As parents, the most important thing is the outcome for our kids, and I promise to you that I will continue to show up and support our teachers and staff and put students first at every decision. And I feel like I can speak on behalf of the board that they will too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Seabury. That was really well said. Thank you. I'll just keep my comments short this evening. I'd like to obviously welcome everybody back, teachers, students, staff. I know that as it's been mentioned by each and every board member here this evening, we wish everybody all the best for a wonderful school year. We're all looking ahead with a lot of positivity, a lot of grace, and a lot of excitement about what's to come. And I couldn't agree with you more, Seabury, that this district is so full of goodness. And I look forward to really spending more time highlighting the good that goes on across all of our sites, because I think there is a lot that we can celebrate. So with that, I will pass it over to the update from our acting superintendent, Sharon Ofek.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. We've been working throughout the summer to get school started, and it's kind of hard to believe, actually, that school has started. It's great. It's fantastic. It was just 1 week ago today that we welcomed everyone. And as you've been hearing this evening, we're off to a fantastic start. And I think, again, along with the theme here, the district staff, the site staff, we are all looking forward to a positive and productive school year and working on behalf of our students to provide them with the best opportunities that we know how to find and provide and share with our students so that they have amazing experiences and can be wonderfully prepared for whatever they do when they leave Carmel Unified School District. So I really want to just echo that positivity as well that we all are feeling when we go visit our sites and talk to our administrative teams and check in on folks and go out to meet with people. I did have a meeting last Friday evening with Laura Dunn out in Kashawa to talk about the after-school program and opportunities with parents and what might they be interested in having available for their students so we can build a robust program with their input. So I think we're all very interested in pursuing what we can what we currently have and how to make what we have better and what we can add in to make our opportunities for our families and our students at the best that they can be. And one of the ways we're doing some of this is through our commitment to providing ongoing learning opportunities and training for our staff and including our Board of Education members. So over the past few weeks, we've done a whole bunch of things. We have obviously some mandated trainings. As you heard earlier, we have rolled out through California School Boards Association. They have an online learning platform for our board members, so everyone has an account and access and opportunity to participate if they're interested in trainings on that platform. In addition, we've provided full-day training for our site administrators focused on aspects of student discipline, including uniform complaints, Title IX, student privacy, LGBTQ+ youth, and students with disabilities, all connected back to discipline and how to respond and what legally we're obligated to do. And it was very well received. The administrators spent a full day with a lot of legal language and statutes and requirements, and they were very grateful and appreciative for the opportunity to hear what the most current practices should be. So that's fantastic. We held an all-staff professional learning day, which was focused on inclusive practices for our entire staff. And again, the feedback on that was quite positive, so I'm quite happy about that. And then we have 2 board members, Sarah Hines and Jason Remenzi, who expressed interest in a California School Board Association training called Governance with an Equity Lens, a Systems Approach to Closing Equity Gaps in Public Education. Had to type that out to get it right. But I was grateful that they expressed interest in that, and part of the signing them up was a commitment from me to participate alongside with them, and I am grateful for that opportunity, and I like the way that CSBA has set that up. So that's nice, and we're committed to providing ongoing access to opportunities for our community to have lifelong learning, which is something that we as educators, at least, I've not met many people who aren't interested in lifelong learning, but educators are definitely at the top of the list of that group of people who like that. So with that, I'll close out and we'll move on to the meeting.
Thank you so much. Moving on to agenda item F. This is public comment on non-agendized open session and closed session items. This is where the members of the public may address the board regarding items on the open session agenda or topics within the board's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda at this time. The board is committed to maintaining a respectful and productive environment that fosters a culture of civility where our staff, community, and the board feel safe to express themselves. So the board will welcome all of your comments and request that you express yourselves accordingly. We'll start with public comment number 50 this evening.
I get to be first. Hi, I'm D.L. Johnson. I've spoken to you before, and I had a state board meeting, education meeting on Sunday, a Zoom meeting, and the comments that came up at the meeting was basically focused on Proposition 28. Your funds are going to be released probably in October, and the thing that came out at the meeting was that be careful how you're going to spend those funds, because they are designed to be for arts education. The Proposition 28 was basically pushed by the Music Educators Association in the state. So I have spoken to your music teachers. I have spoken to your principals. I've also met with Monterey Peninsula Unified, and we were all asked to go out and talk. Be careful how you spend them, because we're not going to tolerate if those funds are shoved into another program that have nothing to do with arts education. And it has happened. It happened last time when Governor Schwarzenegger gave out $100,000 to each high school, and the majority of the money went to physical education. So those are things that I was aware of. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm not threatening, but I'm going to be watching. So, and the other thing was, at this meeting, I was shocked to find out in the meeting they brought up school districts that are having issues. The third one that came up was Carmel Unified. And I was shocked. And everybody looked at me and said, DL, what's going on? I said, oh, we're fine. And when I thought about that, I thought about some of the meetings I've gone to, and it is shocking. I'll be honest with you, I was humiliated by the behavior of people in this community at the way they were responding to major issues that the school board was going through. To harass, to humiliate, that's a no-no. I've served on boards all my education career. That's over 50 years I've been in education. And I have never seen that happen before. And I think the community needs to settle down. You're making mountains out of molehills. And I know you don't think that way, some of you, but be careful, because it gets out in the media, and the media knows, and these get out. And I assured them this is still one of the top schools in the nation for a small school. And I assured them I was honored to be in this community. I'm honored to have my grandkids in this community, in the school district. and we should be very proud of everything this school district has been able to achieve. Let's focus on the positive things rather than the negative. I'm sorry I have to leave. I have to be at another meeting.
Thank you for your comments. Number 51, please.
Hi, glad to be back. Yeah, I also didn't know what I was going to say, Seabury. You inspired me to speak from the heart instead of from some notes that I took. I love the premise of moving forward. I love the premise of positivity and of leadership and of clean slate. I think that is what we need. I think that is what civility is. And I think the message that I want to bring now is that I look to you as a board to exhibit that in leadership. I love hearing that there is additional education. Go to CSBA stuff and report back here what you're learning in your notices. Let's focus on Title IX, what is happening with the Title IX coordinator in the district, and report that back here so that way the community knows what is happening, and exhibit that leadership so that way we have a leg to move forward from. Because right now the weight of what I'm feeling is, wow, it costs $770,000 to move forward. And that's a heavy lift. And it's a heavy lift to look at this school district and say to ask those questions, to sit there and say, we have questions and we want to move forward. We want to move forward together, and we want to move forward in strong leadership. And with the outcome of the kids as the primary objective, what does it take to exhibit strong leadership, to show the community what it takes, to show the kids, to show the staff, to show the district staff, to show teachers what it takes to be in a position of leadership and to speak truth to power and to move forward and to be stable and to be consistent. And that if I imagine myself in your seat, that is the charge, and that's what you're called to do, and that's the call to action. And so I stand with you, and I will be a voice of moving forward positively and lifting up the things that are working really, really well, and of bringing people together wherever possible, and of healing differences wherever possible, and moving forward for the children of the district and for the outcomes and for consistency. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Number 52, please.
Before you start clocking me, can I tell all of you that for those of you who remember Michael Woody, who used to work at middle school, I have been saving a lot of stuff that kids at middle school, when he passed away, wonderful things that they wrote about him. And I was able to find his son, and I went and visited him and handed him the package. And it was the biggest privilege of my life working here. So.
Yeah, before you start, Ann, that is pretty heartwarming because he worked with me, and I know exactly what you're
Special
talking
young
about.
man. And the positive things is the kids said about him and how what he did for them. I hope his son gets something out of that.
Well done.
So let me start. I've been sitting at home retired, as all you knew, as of May 1st, after 43.8 years. I didn't make it to the end because I was pretty mad and decided that this was it. And my frustration with this district is not with the staff. I can yell and scream at them all I want, and they listen. They don't always listen to me, but they listen. But the board, I am so disappointed in all of you. Ted Knight was one of those people that was transparent. He had ethics, and you just smashed that. And now it's costing us, well, not me because I rent, but you taxpayers, $770,000 to shut him up and go away. This is not the first superintendent we've done this to. If you haven't learned something out of this, you owe him one hell of an apology and go out there and get the best job you can, because you were the best superintendent we had. I was not a John Lyon fan. John Lyon did several things that I will not share with you, but that was one of the reasons why I quit. My job changed, and it wasn't worth being there anymore because I couldn't do the thing I loved, and that was working with students and parents. I am not a phone taker. I am a person who cares about other people. So you need to go out and learn how to be board members. There are tests that we have to take as employees to be better employees. So you need to be better employees. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. Number 53, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alondra Klemick. I am Carmel High, all of Carmel Unified School District alum, Carmel High alum, my kids also, and also a taxpayer and community member and aunt to a bunch of Carmel Unified School District kids. So definitely have an interest in how this school district works. So to follow, first of all, I agree. We need to move forward positively, not yelling at anybody, not bullying anybody, not being bullied by people who are loud and have an agenda, but always in the interest of doing things and taking actions to the benefit of the kids. Following the advice of teachers, educators who are educated. We trust them with our kids because they have been educated and are certified in what they're doing and how they're helping our kids. Instead of just, this is my philosophy. Take what these teachers have learned and follow their lead. As a school district, so in 9 years, you've had 7 superintendents. What I was thinking about today is, so you're born with one set of parents. Not exactly the same thing. You're born with one set of parents. If you don't like those parents, oh, I'll get rid of those and get one that tells me yes to what I say. If I don't like those, let's get rid of that one. Say, find another one that does what I does or says what I want. It seems like that's been going on. Maybe sometimes somebody who is educated in what you've hired them to do, an administrator, superintendent who has lots of experience, isn't going to say yes to everything you say and isn't going to follow the lead of the bullies. Maybe listen to those people, and I know that at this point it's too late, and we paid millions of dollars to the other superintendents that we've gotten rid of and other people that we've gotten rid of that don't say yes to everything that people are trying to bully them into. So, yeah, I'm assuming you guys vetted your superintendents previously. Do a good job this time and actually listen when somebody tells you to follow the law or to listen to the best interest of the students, not self-interests. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and your feedback. Number 54, please.
Sorry, I'm bad at this. I agree with you almost 90%, except he was smug and couldn't stop putting his foot in his mouth. I think he'd lost. I was like, yeah, so welcome, Jason and Marcus. I put my hat in the ring for board, and you were definitely a better choice. We moved here in August of 2018 for the school district because the schools, the teachers were ranked 22nd in the country. I'm hopeful that through all the rigmarole, we still have most of them. Maybe when we get down to a couple of superintendents, you can check with the parents to ask, if there's a way to see the superintendents. Obviously, 2 in a very short term is not a good one for anyone. Moving on, I was the River PTA treasurer for 2 years, middle school treasurer for 2 years. I'm in my second year as a treasurer for the high school, so I'm involved. I joined the wellness committee back in 2019 with the previous superintendent, and I think our number one priority was wellness, was more sleep for teens. I don't understand how we didn't at least move to like a 8:05 start for high school. I really think it should be starting at 8:30. I talked to the principals of the elementary schools a couple years ago, and they were fine with starting earlier to accommodate the bus schedule. Just for reference, I'm going to go through some of the other school bell times that I saw. Santa Cruz High School, 8:30 to 3:30. Watsonville High School, which is very rural, 8:30 to 3:45. It has 3 block days with a 40-minute flex time on some of those and out at 1:40 on Fridays. Mission San Jose, 8:30 to 4:18, but they have a 20-minute scheduled reading time every day, 4 days a week, and then they have advisory 45 minutes 1 day a week. Palo Alto High School, 9 a.m. to 3:30 or 3:50, depending on the day. They have 4 block days, so it's less wasted time in transition. They do have a period 0 that starts at 7:45, but I'm assuming that's certain students that either are athletes or students that fell behind. Obviously, I really like that schedule with the 4 block days. Menlo Atherton High School, which I think is probably one of the highest ranked schools in our area, 8:30 to 3:45, 2 block days out at 3:15 on Thursdays. Monterey High School, 8:30 to 3:25. They have 4 block days. Every other Wednesday they get out at 2:10. I mention all these because at one point we were talking about, oh, our athletics can't get out early because we have to do it with other schools. These other schools all get out 20, 30 minutes later. Bakersfield High School, 8:30 to 3:25, very large district. Lassen High School, large district, 8 o'clock to 3:06, with a 9:36 every other Wednesday start. 800 students in their school. The Barrow High School Whalers in Alaska, one of the largest geographic districts in the U.S., starts at 9:10 a.m. and finishes at 4:10. So we keep talking about how diverse, how big our district is. There's a lot of big districts. Like Bakersfield, Lassen, and Alaska have very big districts. So just for fun, I give everybody copies.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Some other people, I couldn't find any, but it started at 7:45, and so I'm sure there's we need some more sleep.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Number 55, please.
In the winter, let's start later. Randall Frederick, sorry.
Hi, I'm Bobby Pfeiffer. I'm a member of the community and parent, and I'm confused. I have no idea what's going on. I keep hearing rumors and, tips, and I feel like Erin Brockovich trying to figure out what's going on with this school district. The school year just started. We are like not a week in, and we are already inundated with online bullying and more changes and more disruption and uncertainty. And I, as a person who lives here and has kids in this school district, I don't know who to ask. I mean, I've asked you guys, and I still, nobody can tell me a straight answer. Well, this is what happened. This is why it happened. This is what we're doing about it. I mean, talk to me like I'm a 6th grader. My kid is here every day. And when he asks me, I don't know what to tell him. What does that mean for him? I think that a lot of us agree on one thing. The priority here is skewed, and we have to return back to what we are trying to do here. We're trying to run a school. Trying to run schools. This is education. We're not here to, engage in interpersonal conflicts or, oh, I like this person, I don't like you, so that's why we're going to throw this entire system into chaos. We are here to educate children, and I know, Carl, you've been a principal here, right? Well, my husband was here in middle school when you were principal. He was the valedictorian. I did not go to school here. But he's told me that, issues have always been present, but nothing like this. And you have been here for a long time, and maybe it's time to open the door for the new generation. Consider that. We are looking forward to hearing who's the new person who is going to run the show. And we are looking forward to having a voice and having a straightforward method of contacting you and asking you questions and hearing answers that actually make sense. I am not upset or, angry or even disappointed. I'm just simply confused. I want to be involved in this. I don't know how. If somebody can tell me this is what you can do as a parent and as a person with your qualities, and I've been telling you all the time, look, every quality that I have, it's yours. Use me. Use the people who have amazing, versatile expertise and experience and ideas. Please tell me what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Number 56, please.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Carnazzo, and tonight I just want to give you a perspective to think about on your search for new leadership. I am 6th generation to the Monterey Peninsula. My husband and I have a business in Carmel, and we are raising 3 kids who will go through this district. I was the first person in my family to attend university. I graduated from UCLA at the end of a window when attending college wasn't as daunting a financial hurdle. College now is so expensive, and I'm having conversations with fellow parents about if the value is really there. Is this something we still actually want for our kids? The reason I bring this up is because this district is tasked with educating and preparing our kids for the next stage of life. We have the opportunity to reframe the conversation of success for the next generation. At the February board meeting, Anne Marie's comments intrigued me. She highlighted that 20 years ago, the then board changed the focus to be modeled after Pali High, Acalantes High, and Gun High, all Bay Area schools, with the goal of 75% of students going on to a 4-year university. A lot has changed in those 20 years. We are watching people flee the Bay Area and what that lifestyle has to offer. And perhaps those pressure cooker schools with high suicide rates. With all due respect, I urge you to rethink that focus when we are hiring our next superintendent. Reframe success for Carmel Unified that isn't a one-size-fits-all, shaming that those that don't fit into this paradigm. Our county is home to the premier agricultural hub that feeds our country, a hospitality industry that attracts visitors from all over the world, and a web of self-made entrepreneurs, all of which don't require a 4-year degree to get started in. Not to mention, have any of you tried to build or remodel a home recently? It is so difficult to get a tradesman. What a talent, an honest, creative, and satisfying way to make a living. We need a superintendent who realizes that the goal of college for everyone isn't financially possible, nor does it create a vibrant and diverse community. We also are constantly concerned and puzzled about the rates of mental illness we see in our children. Obviously, this isn't a single-pronged issue, but perhaps this one-size-fits-all approach is contributing to dissatisfaction. Our district should get ahead of this. At the federal level, they are arguing over college debt and acknowledging that the cost is backbreaking. Meanwhile, the path still encouraged is 4-year school or bust. At my restaurant, we have local college graduates and dropouts who come to work for us instead of a job in their field of study because they are able to make a good living wage in our employment, in many cases better than their peers with a 4-year degree. My statements should not come across such that I don't want kids to go to college or for us to strive for excellence. I'm almost done. Both my husband and I are graduates of the University of California, but we see a changing landscape and think that our local school board should be paying attention. How much richer would our district be if we had leadership that understood the changing professional pathways and could correctly steer our students in a myriad of academic and professional opportunities versus a one-size-fits-all elitist endeavor? We can bring in leadership who is of our community and understands the local landscape and the type of graduates with diverse outcomes that a Carmel public school should be celebrating. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you. Number 57, please.
That was very well said. Thank you. Good evening. I think there's a lot of emotions about what happened with Ted Knight. I think there's people that are against it and for it. Either way, I do think that we need to come together as a community and as parents and staff, everybody here, and move forward into a more positive and respectful climate. So thank you for finally closing that out and allowing us to have a path to start fresh and a clean slate, I think somebody had said earlier. Another thing I do want to bring up that has nothing to do with, well, maybe a little bit, but not really, Ted Knight, is the pronoun situation. I just want to give out a suggestion. My son, who's in 6th grade, was not only asked for his pronouns, but also when he didn't fill out his pronouns, was then brought back the paper and told that he needed to put his pronouns. And I'm totally supportive of those that want it, but I do feel like there needs to be some sort of like policy or something in place, because I think it's kind of a free-for-all for teachers, not in a bad way, but I don't think there's like much guidance as far as how they should handle those situations. So I don't know if like the best, I don't know, because I think it needs to be inclusive for all, including those that don't feel comfortable sharing pronouns. So I'm not really sure the exact way of how to handle it. Maybe sending out emails to kids that are 7th or 8th grade and above, and all the families saying, you know, as teachers, we won't be asking for pronouns, but if your child wants to give their pronouns or whatnot, we're here, and we will use their preferred pronouns, and we'll listen and respect it. But to go out and like it, not force, I shouldn't use the word force, but to go out and push a child to put pronouns on a piece of paper at school when they don't want to or they're not comfortable with it, I feel is a little bit intrusive and not right. So I think both sides need to be respected, those that want to use their pronouns and those that don't feel comfortable, don't necessarily want to use them. So I hope that that's something that we can come together and allow it to be a good place for both sides that want to use them and don't want to use them. So thank you.
Thank you. Number 58, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christine Davy, and I did send the board a letter on Monday night, and I just wanted to come here and highlight some things for you. I'm all for the theme of positivity and coming together, and I'm also in favor of doing that in a lawful, transparent, compliant way. And so I'm offering constructive feedback, and not meant to be attacking in any way, but to be helpful. $770,000 in that settlement agreement does not substantially comply with the statutory requirements of the Brown Act, which is the open meetings law, where things need to be put on an agenda and so the public can understand what's going to transpire. There are several laws in the government code that deal with public employee compensation requirements and severance pay limitations. And here, it seems the school district married a separation agreement with a litigation settlement agreement, which is expressly prohibited under the law. It's not allowed under statutory law. It's not allowed on case law. And in fact, I cited for you all a specific case involving a superintendent under similar circumstances. To add to that problem, final action on a severance pay is not allowed in a closed session. It's also not allowed at a special meeting, and both of those things happened last Friday. A cash settlement that's authorized under the government code for a superintendent is limited to the monthly salary times 12 months. That's a government code limitation. That limitation was contained in Mr. Knight's contract. From what I could tell, his salary in 2022 was $270,000. I will add that the government code sets that as the outward threshold. So it doesn't mean you have to go all the way up to the 12 months. It's a negotiable range from 0 up to the 12 months. And Mr. Knight or any superintendent or city manager or any other public official under which this law applies can elect. It's their remedy. You either stick with the contract, which has the 12-month limitation for superintendents, or you say, I'm going to take the risk and not put this risk on the district because the law doesn't allow that, and roll my dice in court on my other litigation claims, which apparently he had a California Public Record Act case and maybe some other Department of Civil Rights cases or something, all related to his employment. So that he doesn't get both, in other words. So he doesn't get to have $770,000 So in my letter and in my view, the actions that were taken by the board on last Friday are null and void because they did not comply with the law, did not comply with the Brown Act, and is excessive. And I'll just end with one quick quote from the case. While no-cut contracts may be fine for professional sports figures, local government should not pay their former executives not to work. I'm happy to answer any questions at any point on Brown Act regulations. And I have more to say, but I'll just wait. Unless, is
Thank
this the
you.
time to comment on closed sessions now or no?
No, your 3 minutes is up. I'm sorry.
Okay, but would you open up public comment again for closed session?
We do not. This is public comment on open and closed.
I should get 3 minutes for each, for the open session item as well as for closed session. That's also a Brown Act requirement, and so would that be afforded to me?
Please go.
Okay, thank you. So I will finish up. With respect to closed sessions, the announcement from closed session from last Friday, there were 3 items on your closed session agenda, and the announcement from closed session lumped them all together. So the public has no way of knowing, was that action taken on item number 1, item number 2, or item number 3? So every report out of a closed session has to have a separate action associated with it, even if there is no action taken. So the first item was performance dismissal of an employee, and then the second one you had threatened litigation, one case or something, and then the last one wasn't public on the face of the agenda, but apparently it was his Public Records Act case. And the announcement just all came at once. So each of those should have been broken down separately, and I hope you do that tonight on your reporting out after your closed session. I also don't see your attorney here. I don't know if he is here, but you do have to have a lawyer with you when you're receiving legal advice in a closed session. So you can't just all meet by yourselves and call it, potential litigation. You have to be receiving advice from an attorney. So hopefully you're doing that too. I just have a lot of concerns with some procedures. And so I mean it in a positive way. I want to see the district succeed, but comply with the law and just do these things properly. And I have every bit of confidence that you will revisit this and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Number 59, please.
Hello. I was trying to go last because I'm changing the subject. And it's always awkward at these when somebody comes in with a totally different thing. So my name's Lee Cambra, and I am here as the advisor for This Club Saves Lives. We started This Club Saves Lives in 2015. One of the main things we did was we hold a fundraiser, a yearly fundraiser to bring awareness to the world water crisis. And last year we changed it where we did a fundraiser to support Ukraine. And this year we had plans of doing our Thirst Gala. It is on September 8th, and I'd invite everybody to come. It's September 8th, starts at 5:30. There's going to be dinner, and our Singer-Songwriters Club performs. And this year we decided, it is At Me Earth again. Yes. And we decided that instead of the world water crisis, that all the funds we raise are going to go towards helping Maui. So, personally, I have a strong connection. My dad was born in Oahu, and my aunt grew up on Maui. So I have a strong tie there, and I also know that so many of us have vacation there. Many times I've run into our own community when I've been in Maui. So I think it's a very important place to a lot of us. So I really hope that you come out. We're going to put together a Hawaiian barbecue. And again, singer-songwriters will be performing. And I just really hope to see you there. We're going to put out a link, a QR code where people can buy tickets online. You can also, your kids can buy tickets at school, but we will have something on Eventbrite that'll go out in the next couple of days so that people could buy tickets and come and support that in any way you can. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Lee. Number 60, please. Is there number 60? Number 61, is there anybody else for public comment wishing to address the board? Just for reference, what number are you?
61.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Meika Bruno. I'm former parent in CUSD. We're taking at least 1 year break from the district for now, trying something different. Tonight I'm here as a taxpayer and resident of Carmel. I just wanted to say good evening to everyone. First, I would like to thank you all for your hard work, especially in the last 6 months, or probably more, obviously, but also for removing Ted Knight. It comes with great peace that we can rebuild and repair the damage from his time here. The most apparent work that needs to be done, or that needs to take place, is for us to lean on you as a board to bridge the gap for the great divide in this community that was brought on by Ted. We clearly will have board members that are not on board with anything outside their own beliefs as they continue to support Ted after all his mistakes, but the majority of you can and should see the need for these. I would like to provide some suggestions for you. Please continue to work as a board to set policies and consistency throughout the district. Our families should not feel jaded for their beliefs and values. Please respect all walks of life and don't cave to the loud minority that wants to throw ideologies and a way of life in your face or to influence our children. It is your job to educate our children and respect the families you are all working for. Please take this as an opportunity to get control of this district, and please ensure your superintendent hiring process is significantly reevaluated. This is an opportunity for our community to regain confidence in you and to start fresh. And thank you so much.
Thank you. 62.
I'm Allie. I wasn't planning on getting up to speak, but Ann Berry, when you spoke, if there's anyone in this district who's been around for the amount of time to see what's been going on, it's her. And, you know, I'm also confused. I really appreciate what a lot of people have said today. And I personally, this is me personally, outside of Jason, who was, you know, brought on by you guys, I voted for every single one of you because each one of you guys have unique qualities that you bring to this board. And you're our leaders. And we've elected you to be our leaders. And in the 6 months that I've been coming to these meetings, I really sadly have multiple times heard parents come up and talk about sexual assault on our campuses and personal experiences about things that their children have gone through at our schools. And, you know, it's my understanding that we in the time that Ted Knight's been on leave, we still don't have a Title IX officer. We don't have a communications officer for us to get information. And I just don't get it. And I know that I wonder, and I'm asking, obviously you can't respond, but you know, maybe what you guys were talking about, people were talking about governance training and stuff. It feels like to me that you guys aren't working together. And I know there's, you know, with the Brown Act and stuff that, you know, I don't even know. It's not my wheelhouse. But I really think that each one of you are qualified to be working together, to be getting things done. I think that every single person in this room and with you guys, our primary purpose is the children. And I know that. And I don't think that anyone wants to see what's happening on our campuses happening, but I'm not seeing action. I'm not seeing, like, I don't understand. I still don't understand why Ted Knight was put on leave. I understand that I was at a meeting here once and he said, if you're concerned with something that I might be doing wrong, investigate me. And so you guys did. But we have no idea. It sounds like it must have been inconclusive. We have no idea. But all we know is what's been paid out at the end. So I'm just here as a parent to say that I still have faith that you guys will work it out and and figure this out. And each one of you is qualified to do this. I do think maybe what I've heard with the governance training and stuff like that, maybe that's what's needed. But you guys are our leaders, and I and other people are not feeling that right now, and we want to get back to that. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Can
I
I
know
just
this
jump
isn't-
in for a minute? And
Yeah.
I just want to provide some corrective information. Dr. Knight was put on a leave of absence, and in his absence, the Board of Education appointed me as the acting superintendent. To be an acting superintendent in his absence means that his duties and responsibilities fell to me. So that's that. I just want to provide that information. That's where we are. I am taking care of and responding to the responsibilities that he had as superintendent in my role as acting superintendent.
Which includes Title IX.
It does include Title IX.
Number 63. Is there anybody else wishing to address the Board of Education for public comment this evening? Okay. Thank you all who spoke to us this evening. We do appreciate hearing from you and understand the frustration that this is not a back and forth conversation. So I know that can be hard, but please do know that we hear you, we hear your concerns, and there is a lot more work going on in the background and behind the scenes with the district office, with site leadership. So again, I thank you all for being here tonight and expressing your comments and your opinions and your thoughts via public comment, because that's what we're here for. So thank you. I'll move on to agenda item 3. These are our action, discussion, and information items this evening. We'll start with our first action item. This is agenda item 3A, Monterey County. Sorry, my sticky note was over that. Consent calendar. This is where the board, agenda item 2, this is where the board bundles items and acts upon them together in one motion through the use of the consent calendar. These items are routine items deemed to be non-controversial for which board discussion is not anticipated and for which the acting superintendent recommends approval. There's no discussion of these items prior to the vote unless that a specific board member requests an item to be removed for discussion. So with that, I'll go ahead and take a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
I second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Okay, agenda item 3A. This is our first action item of the evening. This is the Monterey County Sheriff Office contract for school resource officer services for the 2023-2024 school year. So I'll welcome Cassandra Ziskin to the podium.
Good evening, board members, district, and community. I'm here tonight to talk about School Resource Officer, otherwise known as SRO. Our district received a 4-year grant from the Department of Justice beginning in June 2019. The grant just ended in June 30th in 2023. We've applied again for the grant, but the parameters of the grant have changed a little bit, and so we're hoping to get funding again for this year, but the funding won't be received until October. Our resource officer is a sworn officer of the law. There are 3 major roles for the resource officer. They are a counselor, they are an educator. Our former resource officer was able to work in our health classes and taught lessons on tobacco use and anti-drug lessons at our high school. Again, they are a sworn officer of the law, and they're employee of the Monterey County Sheriff's Office. I do want to point out an important point that the SRO is not involved in disciplinary actions at the school site. That is the responsibility of the administrators and the staff. They are there only as a support. If approved this evening, Carmel Unified School District will hold a memorandum of understanding with the Monterey County Sheriff's Office for the school resource officer services. School administration benefit from having a resource officer on the site. Their training, their knowledge, and most importantly, their relationships that they're able to build with the students. Purpose of the MOU is to enhance safety and security for our students and our staff, providing an open line of communication between CUSD and the county. This is really important in our county because our Monterey County Sheriff's Office has a limited amount of staff. They have 600 square miles that they support, and they have a very limited staff. So having that open line of communication was very beneficial for us last year. And I'm very proud to announce that we have one point of contact if this is approved, and he is Chief Deputy Hoyne. And he has already been very responsive and supportive of our school district. Fostering a positive and cooperative relationship between school and administration, staff, students, and sheriff deputies. Creating and encouraging through every useful, mean, desirable behavior on the part of children, youth, and families. Just their being on the campus can promote that. Kind of like as adults when you're driving on the freeway and you slow down when you see a police car. That's the kind of effect that having that police officer on the campus is beneficial for the students regarding behavior. The success of the program relies upon the effective communication between all involved. Again, we are so happy to have this open line of communication because of their limited staff. We're able to have a direct line of communication with the department in the event of an emergency in our community or one of our sites. The SRO will be visible within the CUSD school community, not just at one school. They have an office at the high school, but they are visible in the entire community, and they're able to attend each site and the events at each site. And I'm working on that with Chief Hoyne to develop that for this year, if it's approved. Attend and participate in school functions, build working relationships with school staff as well as students and parents, establish and maintain a close partnership with the school administration in order to provide a safe school environment, assist school officials with their efforts to enforce Board of Education policies and procedures, including following all non-discrimination, privacy policies, and protect students, provide law enforcement services to the CUSD school grounds and areas adjacent to the schools. Be present, assist school administrators in emergencies, work with administrators, counselors, and support staff, work to prevent juvenile delinquency through close contact and positive relationship with students, a real emphasis on those positive relationships. Serve as a resource in a classroom presentation. Again, our resource officer did lessons in our health classes against promoting anti-tobacco use for our youth, which is an issue, as we are probably aware, around the country. CUSD agrees to pay the county a total amount not to exceed $150,000, which shall be inclusive of all salary benefits, equipment, related costs, taxes, including payroll taxes, insurance, and all costs, expenses arising out of the performance of the MOU agreement. Again, if we are to receive the grant funding, which comes in October, that funding source would be switched over to the grant. The 4-year grant, again, covered the entire cost of the SRO in the past 4 years. The county shall not receive any compensation for additional services performed without the prior written authorization of CUSD. The cost of the position shall be divided between the county and CUSD. They are paying a percentage of that. That would be in the MOU if approved. In the event the SRO is temporarily removed from performing work exclusively for CUSD for the county for an unforeseeable reason, the county will not give us an invoice for those services. Because of the limited resources of the Monterey County Sheriff's Office, the officer can be pulled to assist at times. So when they're off campus, we do not pay for that. The total cost, if we had paid during the 22-23 school year, would have been significantly lower because the officer was pulled from the campus at times. And we did have, our officer had to go off on leave. So with Chief Hoyne in planning for this year, he's going to train 3 officers. And if one officer has to go off on leave or for any other purpose, one of the other officers could step in, because this year we didn't have a replacement. So we're very excited. If approved, we would always have an officer on our campuses. The school resource officer work schedule shall be on duty minimum 40 hours a week from hours 7:30 to 3:30 with regular work week of Monday through Friday. Those hours can change if a school has an event, and they would talk to the officer in advance. The SRO shall be on duty up to a total of 180 hours, 180 days. That's our school year. Student instruction. The county will accommodate a schedule to change the flexible scheduling as needed. Again, the officer would have to be notified in advance if we're asking him to change his schedule. The SRO's primary location is at Carmel High School, and but again, they do go to the different campuses as requested. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much. No, sorry, but feel
No.
free. I'll go down the line in 1 second.
Yeah, okay.
If there are questions specifically for Cassandra or Sharon on this topic, please feel free to send them an email, or you can copy the board, send the board an email, and we will help direct you and funnel you to the right person to get answers for your questions. We'll go down the line with questions. Marcus, do you have any questions about the SRO presentation?
I'm not sure if you know this number, but do you know approximately how many hours of the week the SRO spends in their office compared to like walking around campus with students?
No, unfortunately, we don't have data, and it depends on the site they're at, and it depends on what parameters they've established with the administrator at the site. But the goal is to have the SRO out and around on the campuses and in classrooms for the majority of the day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Carl?
Okay, first of all, we got to figure out what's going on with the microphone, because it's got a lot of back noise in it. And so,
Is it me and my
beyond
two
that,
clouds?
it's not just you, it's anybody using it. So, look, I brought this item for the purpose of daylighting it to the community. When it was free and it was a grant, it was one thing. But when we're starting to pay for it, now we have to have some way of figuring out whether this is actually worth the effort and the interest. I am a big supporter. But at the same time, if we don't evaluate this process, and if we don't set goals and objectives and find out if we're meeting them or not, that could be a problem. So, that we have to let the community know that it's shifted from free to pay as you go. So I think Cassandra is, working with her a little bit, has done a really good job of, and following up on this with the Sheriff's Department, and also working with the high school staff and other administrators and kind of quantifying this whole thing and setting it up in such a way where we all know what is supposed to be done and whether that actually transpired.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Jason, any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. It seemed pretty robust, and I thought the scope of work was pretty specific. Will this officer have a canine or no canine?
The canines are assigned to officers. They haven't done any hiring at this time because we have not approved. So I cannot answer if they'll have a canine or not at this time. We hope to, because the canine was such a plus for the students. They really love Loki. And so we hope to have another canine come on the campus.
Okay. Again, thank you for all your work in it, and all my questions were answered. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anne Marie, any questions?
The question that I put forward to on our board ability to ask questions ahead of time was if he was going to have an actual office to work in, whether because I know that last year he he worked out of his car. So I was glad to hear that there was going to be an office available for him. So in case people need to report something or some, discussion about something, it also is nice to give an extra set of ears on campus. So thank you for the clarifying that he will actually have an office. Thank you.
Yes, I spoke to Principal Duthman, and she confirmed that he does have he or she will have, the officer will have an office.
Thank you. Seabury?
And just for clarification from what Carl was saying, if we receive this grant in October, we won't be paying.
We would change the funding source, and we
Right.
would use the grant funds instead of.
100%.
Yes, we would use the grant funds if we're granted it.
Right. And is it pretty typical that we would receive the grant, or is it competitive?
In the
or-
past, it was. We're not sure at this time. In writing the grant, the language had changed a little bit. They seem to be moving away from funding SROs, but we did put in for an SRO because it's something that the administrators were interested in.
Yeah. And I had asked as well ahead of time about, it would be interesting to see if there's any statistics or facts on the benefits, like some hard data on the benefits of having an SRO. So if that's possible at some point, it would be interesting to see
I
that.
did look for that. We wouldn't have that in our community because we would need comparative data. We would have to have looked at how was it before the SR started to compare it to now. So we don't, unfortunately, we don't have that from the last 4 years. But I did look up pros and cons for having an SRO on campus, and most of them were positive. The one negative that I did see was at certain districts, the minority students were cited far more than other students on campuses. But we didn't have, I don't think we had one citation on our campus last year from our SRO. Again, he's not a disciplinarian on the campus. He's not there for that. He's there to build relationships and to support students and staff safety.
Yeah, and then my next, I have two more questions, but I can combine them, is, is there a type of introduction that's provided from the SRO to the students? And then also how are the positive interactions encouraged and supported throughout that time that he's there?
So the SROs go through actual school training. It's very intensive, and it's a requirement under Ed Code, under the law. So they have training on how to operate in a school setting, and a lot of that is around how to build relationships, how not to, how to follow Ed Code and support students. And yes, we hope to have introduce the SRO at each of our sites when they start. Take them around and introduce. I was sharing with someone, I think Sharon, that when I was a site administrator, the SRO would come on a regular basis and bring the dog or drive the car onto the campus, and the kids love the siren, and just building relationships that way. So. Yes. Yes. And that was a big plus I heard from administrators with the last SRO, that he was able to connect with students that others may not have been able to build a relationship with. He had a really good rapport with those students and their families.
Thank you again for the presentation. I just have a quick question, and I will A, apologize if you've already answered it, and B, sorry I didn't ask it ahead of time because it just came to me. But if we get the funding, or when we get the funding, what's the possible start date for the SRO? Like, will they already have been trained, and are they ready to go? Like, what is the timing, the timeline after the grant approval?
Yes, so Yvonne Perez, our CBO, and myself, we met with Chief Hoyne, doing the Chief Deputy Hoyne during the summer, and we established that. So he's already sending candidates in for the training, and they will be ready to start. They have that date of October. They have that date for us once we're approved to begin as soon as possible.
Yeah. I just want to add some clarifying information here. So what's before you right now is approval for hiring an SRO. If we get the grant, then that's great, because we can change the funding source. But what you're being presented with tonight and what you're voting on is whether or not we hire an SRO regardless of the funding source. So if this gets approved, then Cassandra will communicate that it was approved, and the process will begin in terms of hiring and assigning an SRO for Carmel Unified.
Great,
He
thank
did
you.
send out a survey to candidates on the force that are interested in the position, and so he does have some people who are interested in going through the training.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So with that said, may I please get a motion for action item agenda 3A?
So moved.
And a second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Okay, agenda item 3B, our second action item of the evening. This is approval of the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, otherwise known as the ELOP, for the district, and I'll pass it off to Sharon.
Thank you. I had to grab the clicker here. So the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program is of legislation, connected to legislation that was approved a while back and has morphed over time, changed over time. However, with this coming year, it is the first year that full implementation is expected by the California Department of Education, and they released an audit guide, and that is where this plan comes into play, where we have to have approval from our board. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. Before I do give you a background on what the conditions and criteria are for the funding, I just want to thank a team of people who worked on this, which was Yvonne, our CBO, and then Laura Dunn, our early childhood education and after school programs director, coordinator, guru, and then Lee Cambra, who has spent a number of summers overseeing and contributing to the planning and organization of all of the summer programs, which are a part of the ELOP at this point. So, what is the ELOP? It is expanded learning, meaning that the students who are qualifying through the established criteria would participate in either before school or after school, and intersession, meaning during breaks and summer, including summer breaks, participate in learning programs that focus on academics, social, emotional, and physical needs and interests of the students through like hands-on engaging activities. So it is intended for grades TK through 6th grade, specifically for unduplicated students. Unduplicated students, there are 3 elements to unduplicated students, 3 groups of students. One is foster youth and homeless students, one is EL students, and the third is socioeconomically disadvantaged, which has its own definition of what that means. So any student who falls into those 3 categories is required to be provided an opportunity and an invitation to participate in these programs. And the intent of the legislation is to provide student-centered, results-driven opportunities for after-school and beyond the school year, beyond the 180 days of opportunities for activities and enrichment and engagement. The other element of the ELOP is that it is strongly encouraged to partner with community partners, which is interesting because we have community partners, but we don't have that many community partners. So we work really hard to try and see what is available for our students and partner with those community agencies that will work with us. So I went a little bit over this legislation. It's just the technicalities. Assembly Bill 130, which was amended to become Assembly Bill 167, has like all the legal language. There's many sections of the ed code that this has been incorporated into. And again, I just already provided you with what the student groups that are included in UPP, or unduplicated pupil percentage. The requirements I kind of shared, but the requirements are for a 9-hour day. However, the CDE did put in a provision for what they call a frontier designation, and there's a definition for what that is. But most importantly, Captain Cooper qualifies for a frontier designation, and they therefore have the requirement of an 8-hour day instead of a 9-hour day, which makes it fun and interesting for us to plan for, because we have schools that have 9-hour days required and schools that have 8-hour days required. It is 180 days in the school year plus an additional 30 days during what they call intersession, so any of our breaks, including our summer break. And then the programming is required to have at least these two components. One is an academic support component, that can be focused on any number of different things, but specifically called out, as in the state of California especially, is literacy, but also included are arts, math, history, social science, CTE, and CTE computer education elements that the CDE, I think, finds very important for students to have exposure to. And then in addition to the academic support is educational enrichment. So any element that is considered enrichment is a requirement. And then finally, we are allowed to, thankfully, use some of the funds, of course, to provide in those many hours of a day nutritious snacks and meals. So that's nice. There is an enrollment requirement that we offer it to 100% of our UPP students with a target participation rate of 50%. The fiscal accountability is through an audit, and that audit guide was recently released in June, so that was very helpful for us in terms of designing and planning for the future. I think you heard one of our board members share earlier that we already are, based on our experiences this summer, working on figuring out what can we do for next summer based on what we learned, because this summer was a big adhering to all of the requirements was a big undertaking, and you'll hear more about that in a future meeting because we have a summer programs report coming up. Anyway, there are staffing requirements as well. Those ratios differ for TK than 1st through 6th grade, but those elements are required as well. And so in terms of our next steps, it's board approval. We will have program evaluation on our end for planning for next school year, as I mentioned, and then the plan that is attached to this item is required to be reviewed at least every 3 years. We can change it more often, but a minimum of every 3 years. And the plan is a template that was provided by the CDE, and it has 10 or 11 different elements and requirements about how we're going to go about our planning. It doesn't have specifics in it about what the program actually is, because they understand that it's based on the community partnerships and the programming we can provide for our students, and every community is different. So it's more around, and it's attached so anyone can read it, but more around like, what are you going to do to cultivate leadership skills in your students? What are you going to do in terms of a nutritious snack? What are you going to do in terms of any number of different elements? It's a more broad plan than we typically are asked to provide by the CDE.
Great, thank you so much. Marcus, any questions on the ELOP presentation?
For the program evaluation, the program evaluation is part of that, identifying which students will be given the opportunity to use this program.
The requirement is for unduplicated students to participate and to be offered that, so that's predetermined. But our program evaluation, of course, would be maybe looking at participation rates and maybe questioning what barriers may exist to participation and figuring out how we can accommodate that. So those kinds of things are part of the ongoing iterative cycle of reflection on what we did it work well, and why, if it did, great, and if it didn't, what might have been a cause for that. So achieving improvements year over year based on addressing what I would call a root cause to a reason for, limited, in your question, limited participation.
And then quickly for a second question, qualifying students would still have the option, and their families would still have the option whether they'd like to participate in this or not?
Correct.
Was that okay?
Correct. 100% must be invited, and the target that the state has set for participation is 50%. But I mean, we're not going to be like, you must come, especially if it's during, it's during time that families might want to spend with their students in the summer or vacation or even frankly after school. And our programs right now that we have run have all been mostly summer and mostly after school, some a little before school, but not a bunch. So it just depends.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Carl?
Yeah, I'm interested in the report out schedule for this. How often will we be hearing about progress?
Well, we have summer programs that we report out on. I know last year we provided a report on the summer programs that we offered. That was part of an ELOP plan, right? This summer you'll hear, well, not this summer, in the next month, you will hear about our this past summer programs and what we did and how it went. So that is the annual report out on that. If there's more interest in what's happening, then that's a whole, we're happy to provide information. In terms of participation rates and during the school year, the 8 and 9 hour days, those are incorporated in our elementary schools through the after school programs, River Rec, T-Rex, and Captain Cooper has a program as well. And then we have a program up and running here at the middle school for the 6th graders. That's the newest element to that.
So the annual reporting is based on those programs that are underway. And do we wait until they terminate and restart, or is there anything in between? Just curious.
No.
Okay. Just
not required.
Okay, that answers it.
Thanks, Carl. Jason?
I'm sorry if I missed it. What is our participation rate? Does anybody know that off the top of their head? Are we hitting that 50% target, or are we well short or well above?
So it ranges from summer to summer. This past summer, I can calculate the numbers. I don't have the exact numbers, but I do know that the participation in summer programs this summer was less than the previous summer. And that could just be that families are busy doing things, have plans. COVID is really not as much of a concern as it was even just the summer before. So we definitely need to look into that. In terms of during the school year participation, this year will be our baseline year for tracking that, because this is sort of had a slow roll into fulfilling and meeting the requirements. This 23-24 school year is the first year these requirements are going to be, that we as a district will be held accountable to these requirements. So this will be our baseline year for all of this data.
Thank you.
And this year meaning starting July 1st. So.
Thanks, Jason. Anne-Marie?
My question sort of is surrounding the same, the 50%. I know that we have, I'm trying to put it politely, free spirit sort of ideas going on in our outlying areas as to participation in things. And I'm concerned, are we going to be fined if we don't hit that 50% threshold? Is there some kind of accountability that we have to make sure that we, check that box for the state, federal government? Yada, yada.
It's a target. It's a target. We will be audited on whether we sent an invitation to everyone who qualifies.
But we won't be hand slapped if we don't hit that 50% threshold.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep, it's okay. Mhm. Mhm.
Thanks, Anne Marie. Seabury? Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm just curious how will this work with our existing programming?
This is our existing programming.
This
it's
is it.
Funding. It's a funding source shift.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I mean, instead of having to pay for summer programs out of the general fund, or we use ELOP funds.
Okay.
Um,
And it's the target is just for students in those 3 groups, or
Correct.
other.
Unduplicated pupil percentage, or pupils. Unduplicated pupils is the requirement. Offering programs and services for unduplicated students.
Okay.
Is the entire premise of this funding, and the requirements.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, it's wonderful to set money aside for that. And it just seems like this would be a great opportunity to build some community partners. You know,
Yes,
get
we tried
innovative
very
and-
hard this past summer, and we actually had many. Lee Cambra and I met with many community partners. We had some on board, and unfortunately, several of them backed out, frankly, in the last minute, and it left us with a really big challenge to try and determine programming in the last minute. But we did it. Thank you this is why I said thank you at the beginning, because it was not an easy task. And I think what I would like to share with our community is part of the criteria and the conditions and all the elements and everything make it easy in a more compacted community. We're not a compacted community. We have we have folks right here in this area. We have folks out in Kashawa, and we have folks down in Big Sur. And that is, if we don't run a program at the home school, we're required to provide transportation. And that poses a really big challenge, especially during the summer or vacation times.
Yeah.
Because transportation, period, is challenging for a lot of districts. I've recently read some districts have canceled transportation altogether because they just don't even have drivers.
Right.
So we are lucky. I feel grateful and fortunate for the transportation team that we do have. But again, in a community as large and expansive as ours, with the travel time and the 8 and 9 hour days, I mean, this is not an easy task to plan for, and it requires a lot of creativity. And our community partners are great, but it's really hard when they back out at the end.
And are there specific learning outcomes that are associated with these opportunities as well that you?
No.
Okay. So other than
It's not required, and doesn't mean that we can't have them.
Right.
But it's not required.
But I mean, so essentially the evaluation is either participate, enroll, or not. There's not additional evaluation.
It's an evaluation of the programs we're offering.
Mm-hmm.
That's required.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for the presentation. May I please get a motion to approve agenda item 3B? Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So sorry. I was just looking at emergency crisis locations. So I know that our outlying areas sometimes get isolated, and is it going to be looking in terms of alternate locations and having staffing in case staffing gets stuck? And I mean, have those been thrown into the mix of when we're putting this together? And just throwing out the idea, because I've gone out to the Tular Library quite a few times.
So we have emergency. Well, I'll just use last winter, right? We had several situations where we had to make decisions in what I would say emergency situations, and I would hope that through the forms that we fill out, they're called J13As, right? So when we have to cancel school, that those forms would obviously address these requirements as well in terms of a requirement. Like if we can't get kids to school because there's a natural disaster or a natural emergency, the CDE has those forms in place for us. So let's say we have 176 7 days instead of 180 days of school, we wouldn't get dinged for those days that we didn't have because they're all part of that emergency form that we fill out to the CDE called the J13A. So in that regard, I would imagine that's exactly how it gets addressed.
If there's no more questions, may I please get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar.
Yes.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
All right, thank you. This is agenda item 3C. This is an information only agenda item. So this is the 45-day budget update with Yvonne.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes. All right. So the purpose of this presentation is that we have to provide an update to the board within 45 days of the governor signing the budget, and so that is what this presentation will cover tonight. It is not meant to be extensive. It's meant to just give information and how that affects our budget. So I put in here, this is our current adopted budget, and as soon as a budget is adopted, it immediately becomes relevant but not current anymore because there's lots of changes that happen all the time with the state. So this is the budget that you approved for the July 1 budget is what you see here. And this just shows the ending fund balance and how we're designating the ending fund balance. So you've seen this before, it hasn't changed. And so what changed with the governor's signing the July 1 or the state budget is if you look back at that other report, we had $1,041,041 in net income or net loss. Actually, it's a little different way. In schools, we call it net increase or decrease, and so that was $1 million. That's coming from our July 1 budget. The ELOP was actually reduced from our budget projection by $26,569. There was some new revenue that came in, wildfire basic aid state fund revenue, and that was $32,000. So the difference between that is $6,296 that you can see there on line 5. As we start to really hone in on what are the positions that will actually get funded or actually get filled during the year, we had some vacancy assumptions when we create the budget. That's part of our budget assumptions. And so we had some savings in the certificated. We had some additional expense for our classified, and then our benefits were a little bit more, and so we had a change in our expenses of $84,863. So that is actually in the positive, and so that $1 million that you see up there is actually reduced now to net increase of 962 rather than 1 million that we were projecting at that point in time, and so the adjusted net increase is now $712,727. So down at the bottom, so that top part is our unrestricted fund, and the last few lines there, 15 through 19, is what has happened with some of those grants that have been just really tumbled around in the legislative proceedings and where it finally landed when they signed the budget. So lots of changes from the January governor's budget. May revise. We thought we were going to have even bigger cuts. If you remember when we did the budget study session with the board, when the governor signed the budget, they weren't as extensive as everybody thought they would be. So that was good. So there was a change in what we had budgeted for the art and music and school grant, and so that is an increase. We will be increasing that by $280,000. The art, music, and PE block grant, that's the one that's very broad in its use and on how we can use it. And so there was a partial reinstatement from the May revise of $471. And then the learning recovery block grant, that actually took a 14.4% cut. with the idea that over the next few years that they will restore that all the way up through 2027, I believe I read, if I remember correctly. So total revenue adjustments on our restricted programs is $621,000. I put a slide in here. I will also add this slide when we do the unaudited actuals report to the board in September. But this is, I thought you would be interested in what we have received in COVID funding over since 2019 when funding first started coming in. And there was a mad rush to spend it because the first amount that came in was a lot of money and you had to spend it by December. And then they came back and they said, oh, sorry, you can have until March to spend it. So they do things like that all the time, but every school district in California had spent it. So there really was some mad rush to spend it without a whole lot of planning that went into that. But then as additional funding came in, we did much more planning on how to thoughtfully use those funds. And so you can see that over the past few years, we had $7.3 million in what we'll refer to as COVID-19 relief money from the state and from the federal government, and we have expended all of those funds. All right, for categorical programs, we will, in the enacted budget, there was an 8.22% COLA. And as you know, as a basic aid district, we don't receive that COLA because our revenue comes in primarily from property tax. If we were state funded, their increase in revenue comes in primarily from the COLA. And so the COLA, but for our categorical programs I listed, there were many categorical programs that will receive the COLA, but these are the ones that Carmel gets. And so you can see there's the mandated block grant, our special education funding, which is great. They have not always provided a COLA for special ed. And then our child nutrition program also received the COLA. This is the updated financial dartboard. This is part of the assumptions we use when we're creating our multi-year projections. You can see there that STRS, the employer rate for STRS, has not changed from what I showed you in May, and so it's remaining steady over the multi-years. CalPERS, of course, is continuing to go up, and you can see by 26-27, CalPERS will be projected to be at 28.7%. So some other factors that we use there to create our budget. This is a slide from school services. We really rely on school services and some other agencies like Capital Advisors, CASBO, all sorts of information that we read to stay current on what's happening with the state. This was a slide from school services, and I thought you would find it interesting because we also are experiencing declining enrollment. I'm interested to actually take a look at what our enrollment is at the end of August to see where we are. But we did project a decline in enrollment for this year. But you see Monterey County, they highlighted that, and so a negative 14% in Monterey County in declining enrollment. So this is certainly a factor that is affecting many schools. We're perhaps a little less affected. Why we're affected, and it has to be a source of conversation going forward, is because we have added a lot. And so and even though when we have declining enrollment, we don't lose funding from that, we've added a lot, and we're losing all of that money that I just showed you from federal dollars, where we added a lot of additional supports for our students. And this is the basic reporting cycle for schools. So you heard from me today on the 45-day budget update. In September, at our September board meeting, we will have the unaudited actuals that then almost closes the books for the year. That's when the full close is done. It does take us almost through August to get everything done to close the prior year. And then that report is presented to the board. We're still being audited. Then for this year, you'll have an audit report in January of the audited financial statements. And in the meantime, we'll have a first interim report to the board in December, and we'll go from there. And with that,
Great.
if
Thank
you have
you,
any
Yvonne.
questions.
Sure. I'll start with you, Marcus. Any questions on the budget?
I don't believe any questions on the budget, but I do look forward to hopefully seeing some enrollment data regarding our district and our schools here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Carl?
No, thank you.
Jason?
No questions. I just want to point out that your projected was like 10% from what the actual was, which I think is impressive when you're dealing with the state budgets and so many unknowns. And we appreciate your expertise. At least I do. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Emery?
you very much. I appreciate it.
Seaver?
No questions. Thanks, Yvonne.
I just had one question.
Yes.
Only because the gentleman who spoke during public comment made me
Mhm.
think of this. So, will the Prop 28 funds that
Mhm.
that he was talking about for music and arts,
Mhm.
are those the funds that are referenced here, or will we see those in the unaudited budget presentation in September?
Right. So very interesting. One of the things that we do in as a CBO and in the business offices, we also do compliance, and so we work really hard to make sure that we're in compliance with all required parameters of a grant or a legislative appropriation, and they're out there. Unfortunately, Prop 28 there's not been an actual appropriation. We have estimates. We have estimates from school services. School services looks at all of the funding across the state for Prop 28, how much looks at the ADA, and that's what's driving the funding. And so we have some estimates for Prop 28, but there is not an actual allocation yet released from the state, nor are there really specific guidelines from CDE yet. So, but when those guidelines come out, we will be scrutinizing them closely and making sure that we're doing everything that we can to comply with those requirements.
Just a quick comment on that. To the speaker's point, the governor has been rating that particular fund. And that was his concern because it's kind of new. It's pretty lofty, as it should be. It's been very well funded, but it's been pretty clear via CSBA that it's not very well protected, and it's looking as that could be a concern in terms of the overall amount that was approved.
Mhm.
He had a point.
Right.
Great, thank you so much, Yvonne.
Thank you.
Agenda item 3D, this is resolution number 23-16. This is the bid award for the Learning Center project. So welcome Dan Paul to the podium.
Okay, this is the project that we discussed last month when I recommended that reject all bids. We held another process, had 3 bidders attend, and we had 1 bidder submit. So I think it's the bidding environment we're in right now. The new bid came in from a different contractor and was $13,000 higher than the last bid. I've done some checking. The cost of the reinforcing steel went up. Our detail for the PG&E connection to upgrade the service was changed a little bit, and we've also seen the petroleum costs rise a little bit. So I think this number is the number, regardless of how many bidders we get. I checked some local districts, and they're having the same environment. LaSalle had a bid project where they had no bidders. So I'm recommending we move forward. We could try and rebid again, but I think we're going to get into rainy season when we're doing the earthwork, which is like the worst case scenario for a project like this. So I'll answer any questions you have.
Do any board members or Marcus, do you have any questions for Dan on this one? No. All right, I'll take a motion to approve.
Go ahead, Em.
So moved.
And I'll second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar.
Yes.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi.
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
May I
you.
just make a comment to Dan Paul? Thank you so very much for dealing with all of these details as everything goes supply chain wonky, everything else. My hat's off to you.
Crazy times.
All right, agenda item 3E. This is to approve, we'll need a motion on this one. This is action item to approve the revised schedule of Board of Education meetings for the period of July 2023 through June 2024. Sharon.
So the agenda item is about the calendar that we approved for the full year of board meetings. However, when we did this last year, the calendar year, or the school calendar, the days of school and when vacations were, hadn't been finalized yet. And it just so happens to be that one of our meetings was scheduled during spring break. And so we are proposing a change in the date for, that is the only change we're proposing that we need your approval on.
May I please get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar,
Yes.
Board Member Amory Rosen,
Yes.
Board Member Jason Remenzi,
Yes.
Board Clerk Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
That's it for the open session agenda items this evening. I'll go ahead and identify our closed session agenda items before we adjourn. Agenda item 4A, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D2, 5 cases. Agenda item B is conference with real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. Property is 27885 Robinson Canyon Road. The agency negotiators are the acting superintendent and our chief business officer. Negotiating parties, Carmel Unified School Districts, County of Monterey, and the Carmel Valley Historical Society. What's under negotiation is price and terms of payment. Agenda item C is public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code 54957B1, title interim superintendent. And with that, we'll go ahead and we'll adjourn to closed session and reconvene. Thank you all for being here this evening. In closed session, the board voted unanimously to appoint Sharon Ofek as the interim superintendent. Thank you.